Well, welcome to the Royal Ocean Racing Club Time Over Distance Series, Volume 8, and we're here with Sam Davies, Vendee Globe star, Volvo Ocean Race skipper, and right now also looking after two 8-year-olds at home who have just come out of the shower. Is that right, Sam?
Yeah, yeah. I hope there's not going to be too many strange interruptions during the interview because Roman's gone out kite surfing because it's perfect foiling conditions and has abandoned me with two crazy children.
That's great. That's fantastic. We might meet them later on. You never know. But Sam,
Yeah, you never
yeah.
know.
But Sam, welcome to the show. You're at home in Brittany, France, and we're going to go to the first screen, Sam, just to give. There we go.
Well, those photos may well have been taken in Brittany and France as well.
Right. So as a kid, you used to go there on holiday. You obviously sailing background, Sam. Give us a little bit of inside knowledge on that.
Well, yeah, I'm lucky enough to have been brought up near the sea, and actually, my sailing family goes back beyond my parents because my granddad, on one side, was a submarine commander, and on the other side was a powerboat racer. And he used to race the Cowes Torquay race, and he had a boatyard on Hayling Island called Freezer Aluminium Boats, and so my mum and dad grew up with seafaring families, and so it was kind of inevitable that when I arrived they already had a boat, and I think I delayed the family holiday by arriving a little bit too early.
Okay.
And so at the age of 2 weeks old, I think I was on a little wooden motorboat. I think a fairly something or other.
Okay.
Going cruising.
Okay. So literally from day one, you were in and around boats.
Yeah, literally.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I'm going to go on to the next screen, where you're a little bit older, but through the
Not
research
much.
you had a look. Now this is Tracy Edwards, Royal Sun Alliance, Jules Verne attempt, 1998. How did you get involved in a project like that?
I think I guess the good thing about the sailing world is it's quite small, and there is kind of a really good network. And despite the fact that I was pretty young, I'd already done some rorke racing. I guess from the age of about 18 years old, thanks to Tim Mitchell and the Helios family crew.
There we go. Shout out to them.
Who I did my I did my first ever fastnet races and rorke races with them, and I also met quite a lot of people when I was working for Rob Humphreys. I did a work experience year with Rob before I went to do my degree, and so I managed to get some offshore sailing experience around the UK and English Channel and fastnet racing. And I heard about Tracy's project, and obviously she was one of my heroes, having done Maiden when I was a teenager, and so I'd been following what she'd been doing, and so I managed to persuade her to take me on for a tryout, and it worked. And one thing led to another, and unluckily for her, the project was delayed for a year, which was lucky for me because it gave me the chance to finish my degree, which was something I was never going to abandon, my university and my master's degree. And the timing worked really well, and so literally I think 2 days after my last commitment at Cambridge, I got called up by Tracy to go and join them in New York.
Okay.
And with very little ocean racing experience,
Okay.
no multi-hull experience,
Wow.
but none of us really had much experience, my engineering degree was something that gave Tracy confidence that I could potentially get on and help the crew in the kind of maintenance side, and then pick up the lack of experience through my young years as we went along.
And just tell it, you were doing incredibly well. Jules Verne Record attempt. How were you doing before the picture on the top right, which we'll come to?
Well, to be honest, to start with, we were completely useless. Mostly because none of us had any experience, and the opportunities for women sailing on that kind of boat was zero at the time. So we were on a massive steep learning curve, and we had some great coaching from Ed Danby and then some of the French multi-hull sailors as well. We kind of got called in as many people as we could, and we were still pretty useless when we left. But we learned as we went along, and we were really sailing the boat really well in the Southern Ocean, and we were actually on the record time, which was De Kerfisson, who had the record at the time. It was 72 days, and I can't remember how many hours that we were aiming for, and so we had a really good weather leading into Cape Horn, and so we knew we were actually going to overtake the record on that run into Cape Horn, and sadly we dismasted before we got there. So, but it was pretty good because we kind of proved to ourselves and to everybody else that we were capable of breaking that record, and unfortunately we broke our mast instead. But sometimes those things happen, and we still don't know to this day exactly why or how.
Okay. And explain, you've told me when we had a little chat before, explain where you were when you dismasted.
We were at that famous point called Point Nemo, or more or less anyway, that as far as I remember. I don't have the exact coordinates, but it's pretty much the furthest away from land you can be in the whole of the around the world trip when you do that record attempt, which is exactly halfway between New Zealand and Cape Horn. Yeah. And so the nearest people to us are the people that fly overhead in the space station. And there's no rescue or help or anything. And actually, one of the newspapers that were following us wanted some pictures, and so this picture that is on the screen right now was taken thanks to an RAF Nimrod who flew over us because they were on exercise in Chile. And they were really keen to do this trip, which they'd never ever done before, which was so far out into the ocean, to drop some canisters to us, to drop us a camera, because we drowned all our cameras, and they had to refuel in flight to get to us. That's how far away from land we are, and that was the first time they'd ever gone that far in their exercises ever. So it's a long way from anywhere.
Yeah, I looked it up. It's 1,600 nautical miles from land. That's quite a long way when you've only got a 5 meter tall mast. Yeah, and you got the boat to Chile, and you did it unassisted, didn't you?
More or less unassisted. Well, for me, and it was. I'm grateful for this experience now, because obviously when you dismast single-handed, it's even worse. Speaking with experience, and we, as a crew, we worked really well to put that jury rig together, and we had some great girls on board who had some really good experience, who kind of led us the right way, and as a team, we worked well to put that rig together and develop the sails to the jury rig to be able to keep going forwards. And we tried to keep out of danger weather-wise, because in the South Pacific it's dangerous, and get there as quickly as possible. And we got hooked up by a tow just before we arrived, made landfall, because there was some really bad weather coming, and so we had a tow for about a day and a half to make sure we got inland before the storm arrived.
Okay. But I've got to ask you, dismasting in any scenario, but dismasting for you, you were pretty much a green, you were greenhorn. That must have been terrifying, 1,600 miles from land.
It was only terrifying briefly, as probably each dismasting is, until you realise that you're in a boat that floats, and whenever we go offshore to race around the world, we generally have boats that have been thought and designed with a lot of safety in mind. But yeah, I was off watch at the time, and it's pretty hard because it's quite disorientating, and obviously we were in some quite difficult conditions anyway. And first of all, you wonder what's happened, and then you realise. And then we felt quite helpless because obviously we're sleeping in the hulls, and there's bits of mast and boom and sails flailing around, so we actually couldn't get out to go and help to start with, because the part of the crew that were on deck had to make everything safe so that we wouldn't get attacked by a flying boom or a bit of mast as we tried to get on deck to help them.
Okay, an amazing story, and as you said to me when we had that chat earlier, these record attempts that don't get the record, they don't really get the coverage, do we? Just hear it didn't finish, you got dismasted, and then we all go and have a cup of tea. Well, you had 1,600 miles to get in from there, didn't you?
Yeah, and it took us 16 days, and I think in hindsight it was really good, because if we'd arrived any sooner, I think it would have been harder to digest the deception, the frustration, and those 16 days gave us time to recover, because we were really, really exhausted, and analyse what we'd done and realise how much, how far we'd moved forward and how much we'd learnt, and kind of realised that what we'd actually done was a massive achievement anyway, and so it was less depressing to arrive 2 weeks later than it would have been if we'd have just landed on land straight away.
And this is the only all-woman attempt at the Jules Verne. It's never happened before. It's never happened since. Would you fancy?
No.
Would you fancy doing that again, Sam?
I don't think so, because I don't think I've ever been so scared as I have in my life on that boat.
Okay, all right.
Not on that boat, that's for sure.
Well, we better get going, or the kids are going to get hungry, and So
no, it was an amazing experience. Again, credit to Tracy Edwards, and I think the fact that is the only ever all-female Jules Verne attempt, again, says something about Tracy and what she has achieved in her career, and obviously what the opportunity she gave me by inviting me to be part of her crew has kind of launched me and my career, and I'm grateful to that opportunity, and I understand that it's really important to give opportunity to young people and let them gain experience like that.
Yeah, and 98, rude question, Sam, how old were you?
22, 23.
God,
but actually, and what's quite impressive, and I think about that now, because the Volvo, the Ocean Race, had an under 30 rule, and actually on that Jules Verne crew, 3 of us were 23, wow. and it's so it just shows that it was amazing to have that experience at such a young age, and maybe the Ocean Race should think about the under 30 rule or maybe drop it down a bit to open up opportunities a bit more. Yeah,
but as you say, well done, Tracy Edwards, for taking 3 nippers on an experience like that. That's commendable, to say the least. We're moving on to a slightly more passive racing picture, and this is really about what you were up to around 2000. I think was it 2000, 2001, and you did a lot of work. That's the Mum 36 Worlds on the left there, Sam. How did you get involved in that? Why did you get involved in that?
I can't remember what year it was. It might have been before that, actually.
Oh, okay.
It probably was before that, because I think I'd broken that climbing harness before I went around the world.
Okay.
On the
Okay. So why did you go for it, or how did you get the opportunity more than anything?
Again, it's people giving young people opportunities to step up and learn and progress, and I love doing the bow, and I managed to. I must have made it known that I wanted to improve, and I wanted to go racing, and that I was keen enough to do all the training and practice involved, so I just made the most of the opportunities that I managed to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I believe at that time you were, according to Eddie Ward Nolan, doing the bow on his Ultra 30. What was that like?
Yeah, that was great fun. Well, I did a lot of swimming with with that.
Okay.
We did quite a lot of swimming. No, it was great. And again, Eddie, we had a bit of a different crew because I kind of jointly did the bow and the pit with Lisa McDonald. And Lisa, I think she was already sailing on Eddie's boat Hoya at the time, and they were a bit light, and so I think we sailed with one more crew member on board for the weight limits. So we had extra hands. I think there were quite a few quite light people on board, and we had extra hands, and it was great fun. I guess it was one of the first sort of stadium type sailing. 'Cause I remember sailing really close to land and people being able to watch the racing from on land. I guess a pre-runner before the extreme sailing series and everything like that. But it was fun. A great circuit and more learning curve. Definitely.
Yeah, and Eddie told me also Chris Little's bounder. You were on the bounder team as well.
Yeah, I was on the bounder team, and I did the bow for Chris Little for a long time, and actually it's thanks to Chris that I'm a member of the Royal Ocean Racing Club, because he obliged me to become a member when he was the Commodore. And it's also thanks to Chris and that opportunity that I met KP, and I'd kind of been following what Ellen MacArthur and Mark Turner have been doing in the short-handed racing, and I was wondering about doing it myself, and I knew KP had done it, so when we were sailing on bounder together, he was doing the main and I was doing the bow. I would pick his brains about the mini, and I was saying, how I think I'd like to do it. How can I get a boat? How did you get around? How did you get about doing the mini? And he said to me, well, Sam, I don't need my boat next year because I'm going to do the America's Cup. If you want to do the mini, well, borrow my boat and see if you like it. Do your qualifier, and if it works, we'll have to work out a solution. And so again, thanks to Chris that I met KP, and so I ended up doing the mini transit on his boat, which is the one that's in the picture.
Yeah,
there.
well, we got a probably a better picture, I would say. So I've put the credit. I have to give credit to every photograph, I've been told.
Sam's dad. It was my
Oh
dad.
dear, I'm sorry, Sam's dad. Okay, apologies. I owe you a cup of coffee or something, Sam's dad.
I think my mum was probably shaking too much with emotion at that point to take a picture.
So this is you coming into Salvador in Brazil, having raced how many miles across the Atlantic?
What is it? 3,500 more? I'm trying to remember. I only did it last winter, but I've forgotten the distance already.
Okay.
Around 3,500, 4,000.
And that must have been the longest time you ever sailed. But on your own as well, was that part of it?
Well, for me, that was the. I was actually answering a question that I'd put to myself, and the question was, do I think I can do this? And I discovered single-handed sailing when I was working for Ellen as her shore crew when she did the Route du Rhum in '98, and I thought this world was amazing. And coming from a cruising family where I'd learnt how to navigate, how to helm, how to trim my sails, all very basically. And then I'd gone off and I'd done a lot of racing, but only as a bowman, so I'd never learnt about the weather and decisions and kind of the racing side of the strategy and the racing side of helming or trimming. But I kind of liked the idea, and I wondered if I'd be able to do it, and the only way to find out is to go and do it. So I just answered my question there, and it was my first solo single-handed Atlantic crossing, and I was really, really happy to have made it, and to have done a pretty reasonable season in the end as well, for someone who didn't really know about racing very much.
Right. Okay. Wonderful. We'll move on to the next slide, Sam, and here we have. This is before the 2008 Vendee Globe with Roxy, and as we briefly discussed, what I would be really interested to know is getting to the start line of the Vendee Globe or any major race like that, that's tough in itself. Explain how you got there.
Yeah, it is really hard, and how I got there is, I was going to say lucky. Obviously, you have to make your luck. And since my Roxy campaign, then after that, I found the real hard way of how to get to the start line of the Vendee. With Roxy, they'd done the previous Vendee Globe, mm-hmm. and they wanted to change skipper and give someone else an opportunity, and they were looking, and so they called up some former top Vendee Globe performers,
right,
to have their advice as to which female sailor to choose in inverted commas, and I got onto the shortlist through a bit of luck, and also through having taken the right career path, and that's from actually sticking to my degree and getting a degree, mm-hmm. Because that made a difference, and then through having done the Mini, through having persevered through several years in the Figaro, and got some good results in the Figaro circuit, because they were actually looking for someone who could not only just sail around the world, but also take it seriously and try and get a decent result. Obviously, knowing that the boat was an old boat and what have you, but they wanted someone with a bit of competition streak as well. And so yeah, I got asked if I wanted to do the Vendee Globe by someone who had a boat and who was a sponsor, and that's actually very, very rare, and obviously jumped at the chance, although it was something, and until then I hadn't felt ready to go and do a Vendee, because people had tried to kind of say before, oh, you should do the Vendee Globe, and I was like, well, yeah, I could sail around the world, but I wouldn't do it justice, and I wanted to get to a level where I knew that I'd be able to go and be proud of myself and have fun and not be scared, mm-hmm. And so I had to have that level of experience, and I think Roxy kind of called me just about at the right time when I knew that I'd be able to, and I had time to train and get the right people around me to prepare the race, and so yeah, I was very lucky there. And then obviously the next Vendee after that was a lot harder, because I was looking for money after 2009 when the world was in a bit more of financial difficulties, and it was really hard to find the sponsorship, and I spent 2.5 years trying to raise the money, and with a lot of help from a lot of people.
Well, come on, Sam, let's have a look at some action. I want to have a look at some action here from the Vendee. But first off, bravo Mish, who won the race, hell of a race, 30 teams, rough conditions, 8 Brits, you were the top Brit as well, amazing. But why did you send that message to Mish Des, the winner of the 2008 Vendee Globe?
Well, Mish is another one of my sailing heroes, and someone who I look up to a lot. And at that time, I looked up to a lot because my boat Roxy was actually his old PRB that he'd built, and he'd won a Vendee Globe 2 editions prior to that. And so he knew that boat really well. And so when I started sailing her, whenever I had a question or a doubt or a worry, then Mish was the person that I'd phone up, and so I kept in touch with him, and even during the race, occasionally we kept in touch, because actually he broke his boat right at the beginning, went back to Les Savéol and started 36 hours behind everyone. So I remember joking with him as he overtook me, and so we kept in touch a bit, and so yeah, I just wanted to say well done, because it was just an amazing achievement and very inspiring.
Yeah, and
I like the picture on the top left.
Yeah, God.
A good. That's a good one for Musto.
Okay.
Because it was something that Musto wanted me to in my kit list. So they were like, "Oh, you need to take a Gore-Tex balaclava And I was like, Gore-Tex balaclava, I don't need that. I always wear my jacket with a hood. I've got long hair and I wear my jacket with a hood. I don't need a Gore-Tex balaclava, blah, blah, blah. And then I suddenly realized to jump out when you're quite a lot of the time when you're sailing around in the IMOCAs, we're on autopilot, so we're sheltering inside. So you barely ever take all your kit off, but you don't have your top half, your waterproof stuff on all the time. You take it off as soon as you can to air out, and so actually what I do is just put a smock top on to go out and do the manoeuvres, and obviously so I was missing the Gore-Tex balaclava to keep my head dry, and so in the end I had to make one with a Ziploc bag and duct tape. So I took the picture to send to Nigel Musto, and then Musto made me a special Gore-Tex balaclava when I got back with my name on it.
Oh, wicked! That's fantastic. Well, we will definitely Musto support the Royal Ocean Racing Club, so we can get away with that one. But it's you obviously did the prototype. That's fantastic. But an amazing performance in the race. Let's have a look at some videos, Sam, of it. And this doesn't have any audio, so if you want to have a chat through it, then by all means do. Here we go. Roxy in the 2008 Vendee Globe.
It's an amazing race, and I think you see in the first pictures here all the crowds. I think probably a lot of people who are watching right now, you've seen that either from being there or from seeing the videos, and it's just absolutely incredible. The atmosphere at the start when you leave Les Savéol. These people are they get up at 4 a.m. to be sure they get a front row on the in the entrance channel, and they're there with their breakfast picnics, and it's November. It's just crazy.
And you look super confident. I've got to say, there you look super confident at the start.
Oh, that's what I was saying. I would never even dare to go if I didn't think I'd like fully prepared it, because I want to go out there and like not be shit scared and enjoy it, because it's an amazing opportunity. And so for me, that means putting in the hours and doing the training and the preparation and learning my boat inside out. And I kind of need that confidence when I get to the Les Savéol, because for me it's part of the deal. And it's the same right now with Initiatives Coeur. I'm working really hard to have that same feeling when I get to the start line in November.
Okay.
And these are some of this was the helicopter pre-race images, but all these shots are ones I filmed during the race. And and this, I think this one got used quite a lot, and the Christmas one, and the kids love it because I think I swear in the Christmas video.
Oh, I'm just going to go back to that Christmas one, because I'm sure it was like, on the main news, all this. You became a massive superstar, and it wasn't just the amazing thing that you were doing, it was your attitude. It was just incredible. It was like you brought the Mini Transat into an IMOCA 60 for me. Yeah.
Well, I kind of just realised how lucky I am to have this opportunity, and I just want to try and share it with as many people as possible, because I know there's a lot of people out there who would love to do it too, or who would have loved to, or for whatever reason can't or aren't there, and so I'm kind of doing it, and I know in France a lot of kids follow it at schools, and I was thinking, if this helps the teachers and helps the kids want to go to school because they're learning about the Vendee Globe, then I'm really happy to send back some images. So when I was filming, I was kind of just trying to do it for the people I knew would be enjoy to follow it, and maybe make a few more people want to learn to sail or to go out sailing.
Yeah, and you were third to finish. And it was in a tough race. A 30 boat started. I think it was about 10 or 11 that finished.
11 finished.
11 finished. 30 boats started, only 11 finished. And you were third across the line. Was that above your expectation?
Way above my expectations. And actually, I kind of got a bit competitive as I learnt to sail my boat. And I'm lucky to be training in Port La Forêt with all the top guys, and occasionally in the training I get really frustrated because I was just training with brand new boats, And at the end of some training sessions, I come in and the guys, I'd come into dock and their boats would be shut down with the sail covers on, and nobody left because that was how far behind I was. And I remember looking, like lining up my 10-year-old boat and in the fleet, and I reckon that I was probably 26th in like pure boat speed. Okay. But I knew that obviously with the statistics of the race that it would be possible to try and aim for the top, to get maybe into 10th place. And so that was my goal. But yeah, it was a really, really hard year, and there was a big storm at the beginning, and a lot of the new boats were a little bit too new and not well enough tested to survive the tough weather. And I think maybe as we were talking about earlier, Initiatives coming up as fast and overtaking everyone put a lot of pressure on the leaders as well. And I was really happy with third place for sure.
And look at that. I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of people there. What was that like?
It's pretty crazy because obviously when I left, I wasn't that well known in France, and obviously as things went on, and actually one of the first reasons I got better known in France was actually on the first night or the second night. There was a massive storm, and I think pretty much most of the fleet were being sick, and nobody managed to film or send any images back, and I'd done quite a lot of practice even filming, and I kind of managed that part, and so I sent some images back, and we saw them in the video of the first storms, and the TV needed some stuff and nobody else had sent anything back, so they used all my videos straight away, so everybody kind of got to know me, and and I remember my team manager phoning me to kind of prepare me for the finish, because I think he didn't really, I didn't know what it was going to be like, and he was like, Sam, there's a lot of people that they think they know you because they've been reading your blogs and following your videos every day for the last 3 months. And this is going to be amazing. And I remember, I had a police escort to get up the pontoon and to get back to my hotel, and it was completely crazy. It was massive, and for a few months afterwards, I did get recognised in the street in France quite a lot, which was funny. And as Roman, I think the worst one was falling asleep on the train on the way to Paris just after the finish, with my mouth wide open, and Roman just thought it was hilarious because all these people in the train were going past pointing at me. He didn't even wake me up, and he just thought that was hilarious.
But that's how the French are with sailors, aren't they? Particularly their offshore heroes. They're up there with the footballers and the basketball players, aren't they?
Not quite up there. We're still kind of in the sports newspapers. We're still towards the back, but no, it's the Vendee Globe is amazing, and it's a race that's owned by the French public basically, and it's not just a race; it's an adventure, and it's easy to understand. It's just one person on each boat sailing around the world, and there's this massive race village, and it's something that I think intrigues the French public, and there's a history to the race, and creates this amazing following. There's nothing. I haven't experienced anything else like it in sailing.
Okay, so Sam, I'm going to ask you.
En français pour les Bretons. Désolé les Français. On avait dit qu'il faut qu'on fait un deuxième comme ça pour les Français. Mais je vais répondre aux questions en français après si vous voulez.
We'd love you back in French, Sam. Maybe we'll get it on for the future. We'd love you back in French. So, 2008. I mean, that really did put you in the limelight in the UK and massively in France. And I think you moved to Brittany in a couple of years later. Was that?
No, before I moved there in 2004, when I started racing the Figaro circuit, because in 2004 I got accepted into the Pôle Finistère Course au Large in Port La Forêt, which is like the French training squad, and so I moved there to be based there to train, because it's pretty much a full-time it's a full-time job,
Okay.
and they expect you to be there. And if you're part of the squad, you have to commit to all the training. It's like a group thing,
Right.
and so yeah,
Yeah.
it was. But yeah, I discovered Brittany and France and the French way of life, and I really enjoy living here in Brittany, for the sailing, but also for the life as well.
Yeah. That picture we've got up now is from the 2010 Transat AG2R. And I know you did an earlier race, 2004, but I want to hone in on this one. So the race goes basically from Brittany, Concarneau, very close to where you are right now, isn't it? To Saint-Barth in the Caribbean. And you did this with Romain, your partner, and soon to be the father of your child, Ruben. 22 days, 19 hours, 44 minutes, 22 seconds for a couple on a figure 02, Sam. Discuss.
It's not as romantic as it sounds. But we were still together at the end of that race, and I think that's quite an achievement in itself. And right now people ask us why we don't sail together, and right now we're just both lucky enough to have each one of us an amazing project, and a boat, and we're really happy to rock up and be competitors against each other. But yeah, it was a great opportunity. And actually, the funny story from this is that Savéol actually contacted us on Facebook, because they wanted us to race the AG2R together. So it's another nice, reassuring story for those who are looking for sponsors, that sometimes these amazing miracles can happen, and sponsors can just contact you out of the blue. And that's actually how that race started. And until then we'd been kind of advised not to sail together, because for a while we were quite keen to, and we kind of had more people telling us that it wouldn't be such a good idea, and then so when someone at a sponsor actually contacted us and told us they wanted us to do it, we were like, oh crumbs, are you sure? And so yeah, no, it was good, and we sail. We actually sailed really well, and we went around the Canary waypoint, miles in the lead, and we ended up finishing fourth in like the lead group. There were four of us at the front, between the Canaries and St. Bart's. So we missed a little bit of boat speed, but we were really proud of the result, and we made a good team because we don't have the same strengths, and I think also the fact that we know each other, and there's no secrets or machoism, or when one person's tired, the other one knows, and if someone's having a down day, the other one knows, and we just so we really played the optimization of our team, and to get the best out of the boat at all times, and it worked really well.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Training
together was hard, and I have a lot of respect for all couples who work together.
No, thank you for sharing that with us. I wasn't sure whether to ask, but now here we have you in another setting, with this little bundle of joy, Ruben, I believe.
Yeah, that's Ruben. He doesn't quite look like that anymore. But yeah, that was what happened after the Figaro Savéol, which Romain raced for 2 years, and that's kind of the end story of what I was saying about how hard it was to get to the start line of the Vendee Globe in 2012. And I spent basically 2.5, nearly 3 years, 3 years going backwards and forwards to Paris and London, selling my project, and pretty much getting only negative answers, and taking a lot of no's, and sacrificing a lot of sailing for making business plans, and trying to find a way to be back there and do the Vendee in 2012. And yeah, it's just proof that if you really, really want to do it, you can make it work, but it was definitely not easier. And I did that. I think I had 18 different financial sponsors, plus someone helped me do some private fundraising, set up a really complicated system, and so I actually had to buy the boat myself because I didn't have enough sponsorship to fund the boat.
Right.
And yeah, it's a complicated story, but I made it, and thanks to Roman's help as well. And he was actually the one that persuaded Savéol to join in and be the title sponsor for this Vendee. And yeah, and I had to leave my little man behind as well, which is a bit interesting. And it's interesting as well going to sponsorship, to persuade potential sponsors to sponsor you for the Vendee Globe when you're obviously pregnant, and obviously that was a bit of a challenge as well, to sell a project when people can see that you've got more than one project on the go.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say this. I'll probably get told off for this, but you must have got some funny looks.
Some, and sometimes it was more me worrying about what people would think, and for sure it's really difficult when you're, because it's true, a lot of things change when you become a mum, and you're people are, oh yeah, but once you're a mum you're going to want to do this, and for sure that can happen, and so I had to trust my feelings and listen to what I really wanted, and to have the confidence to carry on, even though it's kind of obvious that there were other obstacles to overcome in the route to the Vendee Globe, but no, I had some really good backing and some amazing meetings, and I remember some meetings with Savéol, who's actually a family cooperative company in France, and I remember them organising. They came to our house to have meetings when Ruben was like 3 weeks old, and I was breastfeeding him every 30 minutes, and and I had sponsor meetings where I had to stop halfway through our meetings to go and breastfeed, and so it is possible. And there are people, there are a lot of people who don't give you funny looks, and who totally understand, because it's more and more normal to be a mum and have a career, or be a mum and be an athlete, and those way around it, and a lot of people who are really keen to help you. And that was what I discovered, was the amount of people that were keen to help me make it happen.
But the community in France really assists with that. I mean, you're looking after 2 8-year-olds right now talking to us.
Well, it's like Roxy just stuck his head in his back.
Is it?
Obviously, the foiling conditions weren't perfect today.
Your first child is 1 year old. What sort of support net did your partner have to look after Ruben?
A lot of support, and luckily my parents, who live on a boat, so they're not always around, but quite often they rock up wherever I am. And even when I did the Volvo project, we were based in the Canaries. Mammy and Pappy's boat came to the Canary Islands to help me look after Ruben. So my parents back us a lot, and they're always there when we both go, or when one of us goes racing. Then they make sure that they're not far away, and when we both go racing, then they come and live at home, so that Ruben doesn't have to move house whenever we go offshore. So we have a lot of support from them, and a lot of support from the village where I live, which is historically a fishing village. La Pointe de Trévignon, there's a lot of families who seafaring families, and have from the fishing in the Southern Ocean or Indian Ocean. Or Ruben's got quite a lot of friends whose dads go offshore fishing, up north of Scotland or out into the Indian Ocean, and other friends who are on supply ships or on work boats, and even one of his friends is a skipper of a really famous historical boat based in Brest. So there's all kinds of families in his school with his school friends, and a lot of a massive network around us who understand what it's like to have one parent not there, and so they're only too keen to help us when we're not around. And Ruben's pretty cool about us going offshore and getting to stay with friends. He likes that. So
that's really interesting. As you say, it's accepted, it's normal in the society that you live in, and that's Yeah.
He's always grown up with that. And when I did the Volvo, three of us were mums with Abby Ela, and Caroline Brower were
Oh, right.
both had boys the same age as Ruben. So and that's kind of when they went to the nursery together and started speaking all their different languages together. And so his two best friends had mums that did exactly the same thing as his mum. So
Right.
for him, it's a lot more normal than maybe for a lot of people.
But here you are on Savéol before the start of the 2012 Vendee Globe. I'm going to say at rock star status. Going into the race, but a lot of joy and pain. And we're gonna watch a little film now, Sam, of the 2012 Vendee Globe on Savéol, and make sure I get this
This
right.
one, I think there was a lot of media as well because I was the only girl in the race. And so I had quite a lot of support or a lot of pressure, whichever way you want to look at it, from being the only girl, and so I had a lot of media interest. And so I'm going to massively appreciate the fact that there's six of us this year to share that and to make it look more normal
Okay.
that there's women in this race in the next Vendee Globe.
Okay.
And, but
2020. There's going to be
it was a
six
good
girls.
start.
You reckon? Six women.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, six women in 2020. And three Brits.
Okay.
Three British women, sorry. Four Brits in total.
Who's that? It's Pip Hare,
Uh,
Sam
Pip,
Davies.
Hare, Miranda Merrin, me, and then the other women are Clarisse Kremer with Banque Populaire, and Isabelle Joschke, who's got a foiling boat as well, MACSF, and Alexia Barrier,
Okay.
who I did the AG2R in 2005 with,
Yeah.
2006.
Well, here you go,
And,
off in
but yeah, no, Savéol was
in Savéol,
it was a really cool boat.
and
And
yeah,
it was a bit of it was hard because I'd spent more time trying to raise the money than I did have to practice and to train. But it was a cool boat and really solid, and so after all that fundraising, I was just so looking forward to actually sailing around the world because I just put all my energy into finding the money, and yeah, so I just couldn't wait to actually go off and do it.
right,
And that's what made the dismasting even harder to accept, was that I didn't even get the fun bit, like the sailing around the world bit. And also I'd invested my own money, and
right,
the budget was not big, and I knew that when I dismasted that there was nothing, there was like no emergency budget. When we put projects together, we try and have this emergency amount of money, so if something happens, you can kind of get back and get up and running again. And I knew I didn't have that, and that I was going to have to get my boat back on my own, and trying to sell a boat with no mast is pretty hard as well, and I had this bank loan to pay every month. So it's not just the deception of feeling like you let your sponsors down and you let your shore team and everyone who's worked non-stop for the last few months to make that boat perfect and ready and safe to race around the world. And even though I still don't know why my rig fell down, because again I was sailing really conservatively, and because I wasn't going for a performance, I was just going to get round. And yeah, it's so hard, that feeling you feel like you've let everyone down, and it's difficult to get back up and have the confidence to say, yeah, I can do this. And especially when you're selling your projects, and you've got to find that energy again to get up and get going again.
But you did, Sam.
Yeah, well, that was the lucky thing, is that there and actually when I was talking to the Volvo guys and the Team SCA guys before the Vendee Globe, I just said to them, look, no, I don't want to do the Volvo, I want to do the Vendee, and
Right.
I don't think I'll be very good at sailing with a crew, and And then when I dismasted, I think they managed to get a message to me on my broken boat when I was sailing it back with a jury rig on my own back to France. And I think Richard Breeses managed to send me. He saw that I'd managed in Madeira to find a little laser sail, because I was just shipwrecked in Madeira trying to find I was going around all the shipyards trying to get bits and bobs to make some kind of jury rig to get the boat back to France. And at some point there was a laser sail with a Swedish sail number. And Richard Breeses saw that, and he sent me a message saying, Sam, I see that you might be thinking about coming to sail with us. And actually I jumped at the chance, because I knew that I just had to get out sailing again as quickly as possible, because otherwise I would have gone into a depression. And so I said to him, I said, look, I'd love to come sailing, because I just need to go sailing again, because this is just so terrible, and I'm exhausted from trying to find money. And if you need someone to come and do the delivery to Lanzarote, then I'd just love to come. And so I ended up trying out, because I knew that I needed to go sailing again. Otherwise I probably would have stopped sailing at that point.
Right. Well, Sam, obviously there's a big build up to kicking off a Volvo Ocean Race campaign, but the first race that you did with Team SCA was the 7-star round Britain and Ireland, organised by the Rourke. And again, this doesn't have any audio on this particular version of it, so feel free to talk about Team SCA and obviously the race. Let's play that video.
It's really, Team SCA was an amazing opportunity, and a big change from having my own project and having to raise money and think about everything and do everything, and then suddenly to be with this project that was so well organised and well funded, and all we had to think about was sailing and performance and training and physical training, and I learnt so much in those 3 years, or 2.5-3 years, from the team we had around us that Magnus put together. And it's his project, and it always will be, and lots of thoughts about Magnus and his family, and because he missed the good bit, and I miss him. I think that was one thing of that project, was I felt quite alone when I got selected, so to speak, as skipper, because I'd never done that before, and I really missed him not being there to advise me. I
bet you Magnus is watching this now. He appeared on the Skip Novak series we looked at. If you believe in Valhalla, I think Valhalla's got a TV screen watching this right now, so.
Oh, brilliant. And we saw a few albatrosses, and we were sure that some of them, we weren't quite sure which one was Magnus, but there were a few cheeky albatrosses that came past us, and keeping an eye on us. But it was an incredible experience, and just massive learning from sailing in the Volvo 70, and to have 2 boats to sail, and Brad and Jocka coaching us, and Axel, and then Santi, and the doctor Antonio. We just had this amazing team, and an incredible crew of sailors. And not just the ones who were on the crew, because we had all these selection trials, and not everyone got to go around the world on a Volvo, but to the opportunity to sail with some world champions and Olympic champions and experts in just every kind of discipline in sailing, and learn from every single one of the crew that were on board.
This is the 7-star round Britain and Ireland race, and it was a tough race, this one. In fact, you set a record, didn't you, for the cause for an all-women crew?
Yeah, which not the first record that we set, because Dee and I, we broke our own record, because it was a record that Dee and I had set in 2009 on Aviva with Miranda and Alex, and we broke our own record, which was good, and it was a tough race, and we had some tough conditions, especially off the start. I remember doing a really good wipeout. It's totally my fault. I got the numpty trophy from the wipeout of forgetting to press the kill button in a windy drive in the English Channel. But we had some gnarly sailing, and we learnt a lot in that race. But we'd already been sailing the boat for pretty much a year by then, and we'd done 2 transatlantics, and that was I think if we'd have tried to do the round Britain and Ireland race a year a year before that, it would have been a lot harder. And by the time we got there, we were it was a good way to kind of confirm that we were pretty much ready to go and do the Volvo.
So yeah, I mean, it's billed particularly for the Volvo 65s that did it as a really good test for the Volvo Ocean Race, because you get all those different angles and different conditions. But for you as a new team with a lot of sailors on board that hadn't done the Volvo Ocean Race before, I imagine that was a pretty golden race for you to do, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I think it gave us the confidence that because it's hard, because you're dodging up the North Sea. It was really windy. Well, the English Channel with all the shipping lanes, and then the North Sea with the sandbanks and the wind turbines and the oil fields, and you're racing around rocks permanently. Mm-hmm. So it's manoeuvres and strategy and getting your line, the perfect boat speed angle the whole time, and mm-hmm. There's just literally not a second to rest. And I think it's probably every time I've done that round the island, round Britain and Ireland, I think I've said at the end that's the most tiring thing I've ever done in my life. And right. I think every single one, including that one with Team SCA, and definitely a great feeling to get to the finish with that one. And I think there were two groups, but I think we weren't far from the boat.
No, you did yourselves
so it felt like
proud.
we were kind of on the pace.
We've got a video here, Sam, which is a preview of the 2014-15 Volvo Ocean Race. And just to remind the viewers, you were up against 6 teams, world class. We're talking Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing, Dongfeng, Team Brunel, Team Vodka, Matt Frey, Team Vessers, just the glitterati of offshore sailors you were up against. But let's have a look at the video, which is basically a preview of the race. And again, there's no audio on this, Sam.
Oh, I don't know this video.
Oh, I mean, going into this race, you were one of the earlier teams, which normally gives people an advantage, but you needed that, didn't you?
Yeah, we needed it because there hadn't been any women in the Volvo Ocean Race for over 10 years. And basically because the Volvo 70s were just so physically hard to sail that it wasn't possible. I think Adrienne Cahalan was probably the last woman to have sailed on a Volvo 70, and okay. She was a navigator, but then even the navigator had to be physically huge to sail those boats. And so we were, and to do well in the Volvo, you need experience about the race, about how to handle racing in a crew, an intense race that lasts 9 months, to learn how to sail these boats, how to fleet sail these boats, one design sail the boats, and we had so much to learn. We were definitely playing catch up, and we needed all the time we could to practice. But it was really hard as well because you weren't allowed to practice with other teams because there were these rules that you weren't allowed to sail 2 boats close to each other, and so there was coming from sailing the Figaro, where we train in Port La Forêt against a group of our competitors, and I was so used to training in the racing environment all the time. I found it really quite weird and frustrating to be isolated on our own for such a long time. And even though the team did everything they could, because we had a Volvo 70, and so we had 2 boats to sail with, and we kind of managed to handicap it to try and put it down to the level of the Volvo 65, so that we could race the boats vaguely equally against each other. But I just felt like we had all that time. It was just frustrating not to be able to do some practice racing. And we had a couple of times we managed to, I think we did a round Canary race, but really the round Britain Island race was the first time we actually had another boat alongside us. And,
right, okay.
So yeah, it was good. We had all that time, and we needed that time. But it would have been easier to, or maybe more efficient if we'd have been allowed to. But those are the rules of the Volvo, and so we couldn't do anything about it.
And my word, did you compete? I mean, you were up against top opposition, one design boats. You mentioned KP. KP, for example, on Brunel, one of the world's greatest navigators. You had Ian Walker's team that went on to win the race.
Sci-fi.
It's sci-fi, and that was a military operation that Ian Walker put together, and I could go on. Map 3 with Ika Martinez. I mean, this was a full on, and you did struggle, but you got your moment of glory, didn't you? And I'm going to play a little video now. And
that's nice. Not just one moment.
Sorry.
And we're going to see that. We're going to see that video, and I think obviously we got better and better, and it was really hard because I think we started from so far behind that the first steps of our progress we all saw and we all felt from on board, but you didn't see it because the trouble with that fleet is you just have to make one tiny mistake and you lose so much. Especially, I think that's the one design racing and the way of one design racing. I know that from the Figaro, and in the end, it's a small fleet. There's only a few boats, so if you make one tiny mistake, then it's so easy to lose so much time.
Right.
And so for us, we made that improvement, but we would always make one tiny mistake or have one sticky area that we weren't as good as the others at, and that each time let us down, so that our improvement got us closer to the others. But if you look at the results, it would never make any. You couldn't see it just on a basic score sheet because there were so few boats in the fleet that our progress wasn't good enough to get us overtake someone. For a long time, and so that was frustrating. But I think the first progress you could see was our inshore racing, and I'm trying to remember how many we won, and we did quite a few podiums.
You ended up third. You ended up third inshore, which is more than amazing. It's incredible against that standard opposition. But as you said, on the offshore, although you hammered away and worked at it, you were always hunting the opposition. Well, leg 8. Let's play the video. You stopped hunting, and you became the one that was hunted. And this one has got a bit of audio.
It's cool. This one.
Let's go up the audio.
We know we can sail this boat.
You can shout over the top of it if you want, Sam.
I can't hear the audio, but I know the video.
So that's it, coming out of Lisbon.
Sort of behind the group. There's going to be heaps of opportunities and different options up the coast, and it's just a matter of...
Short leg, but Bay of Biscay, hey?
Trim off tonight. That's what it is. And I'm taking that guy down over there. He doesn't know it yet.
It's good. We had all kinds of conditions. We had everything from 0 to about 40 knots, I think, on the sled.
And some big seas, hey, in the Bay of Biscay.
Tough night, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, there were still people who got sick on board after having sailed all the way around the world. That was how bad the sea state was.
Yeah, Cap Finisterre and Bay of Biscay, notorious.
Yep. I think we see, we should see the images from the beating around Cap Finisterre.
Boom.
No, I think I fell off the wheel at some point in this one.
The waves are out of control, so we're just trying to keep the boat moving and keep some speed on.
We've all tightened to head east. We're still sort of 7-8 miles ahead.
The race is for sure not over yet, so I think we just need to keep really the focus.
Juju looks completely wasted.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can keep the lead. It's all or nothing right now.
Libby about to beat her brother there.
It was pretty cool. It was cool sailing up the French coast as well because I crossed paths with quite a few of the we crossed paths with a couple of Open 60s who were out training, and it was nice after such a long time of sailing around the world to get home into home waters and see some other people I knew from the French sailing world.
Cool. It's virtually a home port for you, L'Oreal.
It is now my home port, yeah. And the great shot where Libby managed to spray the champagne totally into Ruben's eyes. He never forgets that day. He can remember it even now.
All right, Libby, behave yourself.
They've made friends since.
Okay,
Libby and Ruben do speak to each other again now, but it took a while for Ruben to approach her.
Yeah, but you were saying earlier, you didn't think that the result actually, for a lot of those legs, the result wasn't indicative of the hard effort and the closeness of it. Did that leg give you that huge boost?
Yeah, definitely. And it just, for us, it felt like the race was not long enough, and we needed to go around the world twice, really, I think, to finish our learning curve. And doing that leg gave us the boost, and but I guess it proved more to the outsides because we already knew that how much we'd improved. But obviously, it's always nice that it shows in the results. And and I remember talking with the others and just saying, it's a shame that the race is nearly over because now we're getting the hang of it. And but I think we were all completely exhausted. That it wouldn't have been possible to go around again, but. It just shows how much we had to learn and how much we did learn, and what a shame it is that the project ended there. And I think it would have been great to have. It just felt like everybody had invested so much to get there, and there was so much potential, and we were just starting to show it, and it really was a shame that's where it finished. But that's what happens in sailing and sponsorship, and it's always difficult to be perfect.
But that race gave the team SCA something which was experience. We knew from the Olympic medals, the Vendee Globes, and what all that team had done in the past, that they're all good sailors. But what they didn't have was experience in the Volvo Ocean Race, and experience and experience in lead roles as well, and I think that's what's important as well, and that's what's always hard, and that's why right from the beginning why Tracy put together an all-female crew, because you can go and race offshore and it's it's not easy to get on board certain boats, but it's even harder to get the driving in the Southern Ocean and navigator to be get the decision making roles, and in a way the only way to get that experience is to go off all female, because mixed crews, they're going to pick the best ones at the time, and the best ones at the time are the ones who've had the most experience, and are the evolution of sailing and female sailing is that we're coming from behind. So and that's why the offshore single-handed sailing is appealing to me as well, is because you're the only one on the boat, so you do get to drive and you do get to navigate and make the decisions, and that's why the Figaro and the Mini are such great classes, because you can get so much more experience straight away. And sometimes you have to learn from your mistakes, but the quickest way to learn is from your mistakes as well. Yeah, I'm going to get through to here. Tanguy de la Motte, Sam Davies. I think, can't quite see it, but I think it's the 2017 or 2017 Fastnet. Rolex Fastnet.
2016. Yeah, And we're there with Initiative Coeur. It's just after the Volvo, at the end of the Volvo. I think it's 2015, which is the when Tongi asked me to sail on Initiative Coeur with him, and actually he phoned me up when we were in the Itajai stopover, and I totally refused. I was like, no way, I'm just going to be completely knackered. I can't imagine doing any more sailing after the Volvo for at least a year. But he managed to persuade me, and I realised that it would be quite depressing to not sail for that length of time in there. So yeah, I got back on the Open 60, and it was great to get back into shorthanded sailing and to come and do the Rolex Fastnet race, which is a race that I love.
How many have you done? Get you on the hop here.
7, maybe.
How many?
I can't remember. 7.
7.
7.
Wow.
Maybe more.
Last 3, I think you've done, haven't you? All in IMOCAs.
The last 3 I've done on Initiative Coeur, on the Initiative Coeur each time, and I think I've done one on Artemis, one with Harold Cudmore on a 50-footer, one on an IMX 38, I think, one on Helios. Is that 7 or 8? I missed one because I had appendicitis. I should have done one on Roxy, but I was in hospital instead.
Oh wow, okay. We'll come back to it.
Yeah, it's great. The Initiative Coeur project is, and it's something that's amazing. Tongi created this project, which is really unique because
I'll keep that.
It's a project that is supporting a charity. It's a French charity called Mécénat Chirurgie Cardiaque, which is a charity that helps kids that are born in poor countries that don't have the facility to operate on them, and it's kids who've got heart defects, for most from birth, genetic or from birth issues, which are serious operations, but pretty simple to fix, and be once they've been fixed, the kid is perfectly as normal as ever and never needs any healthcare any more than anyone else. And so this charity, with a whole chain of volunteers and people who work with them, help these kids who get flown to France. They get looked after by host families. They come on their own and they get the heart surgery. So the charity pays for the heart surgery. The host families are volunteer, and they get looked after by the host families until they're better, and then they get to fly back home to spend the rest of their life totally healthy with their mums and dads. And so it's an amazing charity, and it's so clear to see how it changes the lives of these kids and the lives of their families in what's really quite a simple way. And it's quite sad to see that what the healthcare that's available in our country and Europe that we take for granted is not there in some countries, and these kids are basically condemned to die really young if they don't get help. But yeah, heart surgery costs quite a lot of money, and so that's why we're raising the money to help these kids and their family. And I see the kids come to France really tired, and well, I've actually been out to Africa and see how they get detected, and see them come to France and see them get fixed and suddenly grow and learn to walk and have this massive smile, and then they realise that they'll be able to go to school when they go back home, and it's just amazing to be able to help and to be part of this massive chain that helps these kids and their families. And what's great about it is Tongi, right from the start of his sailing projects, right from when he started sailing the Mini, has always managed to support this charity and persuade his sponsors to back him and help him do the best he can for the sponsor. And the first sponsor of his Vendee project in 2012, Initiative, they work with schools and young people and charities anyway, and so they were fully into making it work the best they could. And so they helped Tongi create this Facebook page for his Vendee Globe and run campaign called One Click and One Heart. And so for every new like on the Facebook page, on his posts, every share, every click, basically, then his sponsor donated €1 to the charity, and it just snowballed and went massive. And in the end, I think they ran out of money because there were so many people on the Facebook. They hadn't anticipated how huge it would be.
I had a look, 642,000 likes on that Facebook page.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's incredible, and it's just a great setup for a sailing project, because it's a project that has a lot more sense about it, and I feel like I'm there for a real reason other than just doing sport, or an adventure. And obviously there's definitely a lot of reasons to be here doing what we're doing and sailing the Vendee Globe, and this just adds that extra I guess satisfaction to the project, to feel like I'm changing, doing something for a reason, and doing a change for something that's right and helpful. And the sponsors are, they're sponsors, but they're also donators. And so since Tongi created this project, every new sponsor to the project, so now there's 3 title sponsors: Initiative, K-Line, and Vinci Energy, and they all totally agree to the same philosophy, and the name of the boat has never changed. It's always called Initiative Coeur, Coeur being heart, and they give pretty much all of their visibility on the boat to the charity. And then they have, basically, there's 2 budgets. There's their charity budget and there's the sailing budget, and the 2 aren't mixed, so there's no kind of tax reduction on what happens with the sailing project.
Right.
It's not a kind of tax scam or anything. The sailing project's like any other sponsor budget, but they have this other pot, and it's really significant of money that they want to donate to charity. But they donate in exchange for the fans who support the project. And so if I do good videos and send back interesting stuff and share my race, the better I do it, the more people will follow, and then the more clicks we'll get, and the more money my sponsors will put in the pot. So it's free for the public to donate, to help. So anyone, no matter, even if you haven't got any money because you donate to another charity, you can still click on our Facebook page or on our Instagram page, and by clicking, then that will enable my sponsor to give an extra €1, and so everyone can help, and it's just a great way of creating this community that's doing something for a good cause. And I'm really proud to be part of it, and I think it's a future for a sport or adventure projects to have these 2 sides to the project, so having the sport and adventure, but also doing something for a good cause.
Yeah, wonderful. And as Sam says, Initiative Coeur, you can see the spelling for us non-French speakers in the bottom right-hand corner. Click on the Facebook page, like it, and you'll be putting money to a good cause. But the campaign
will start just before the Vendee Globe. So you can come and follow, because we launched the boat just this week and went sailing the first time 2 days ago, and haven't got the foils in yet. They're just having their last bit of their cosmetic and makeup going on, and but there's stuff going on the Facebook page, and then the One Click One Heart campaign will start just before the Vendee, and we're going to aim to try and save 100 kids' lives this year. Which is going to be pretty tough, because it's a tough year for everybody, and I appreciate that, and I know it's really hard, and but it's also really hard for the charities, because obviously they're suffering as a result of the COVID-19 and this strange situation we're all in right now.
So come on, Sam, I'm going to ask you to spill the beans. 2020 Vendee Globe. Let's go foiling. Top 3.
The top 3. Who do I think are going to be the top 3?
Foiling.
Foiling?
Yeah.
Well, I think the top 3 will definitely be foilers. That's for sure. and it's impossible to say that.
All right, give us one. Give us someone who's going to be in the top three.
You know, I'd love to put myself in the top three, but there's so many good people this year and some amazing boats, and I'm lucky enough to have a great budget and to have been able to boost Initiative Coeur and put these amazing new foils on. They're Guillaume Verdier foils, and the boat is a VPLP Verdier boat from 2010, so she's a bit old now. I'm doing my best to keep up with the new boats, but in theory I'm not quite as fast as the new ones. They're just absolutely amazing, so we'll have to see, and we'll have to see of all the new boats who manages to make their boat work, because these boats are pretty complicated now, and the foils are complicated, the systems, and there's not much time left to get them working, and be able to get the boats up to 100% of boat speed all the time is a big challenge to sail these machines, or semi-fly these machines around the world, and it's great to be part of that development as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I'm speaking for everyone here to say we wish you bon vent, good wind for the Vendee Globe 2020. But Sam, that's all we've time for this week. Thank you so much for coming on the Rourke Time Over Distance show. A last word from you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, and it's great to see this little collection of images and memories and souvenirs, and it's great to share a bit of what I do with everybody who's watching, and I hope that's inspired some of you a little bit, and happy to answer questions, and only happy to, more than happy to share what we're doing over the next few weeks and the next few months, and we're the lucky ones that hopefully we're going to be able to race this year and race the Vendee Globe, and have everyone follow what's going on around the world. So we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Well, I'm sure we'll have a follow-up, maybe in French. We've had a couple of people ask it in French, maybe in French. But this is a good opportunity for me to talk about next week. Same time, same place on the Rourke Time Over Distance series. We will have a guest who has competed in 7 America's Cups, winning 4 times. And that gentleman is no other than Brad Butterworth. And he'll also be focusing on the amazing Rambler 88. But it's about time to say goodbye, and we'll play you out with an amazing video of Initiative Coeur. Thank you so much for being with us, Sam, and bon vent pour le Vendée.
Merci, et merci à tout le monde pour cet chouette moment passé ensemble vendredi soir. Now it's beer o'clock, isn't it?
It is beer o'clock. Cheers, Sam. Cheers, Sam.